Hello and welcome to Patched. I'm your host, Paul James. Today I'm joined by Matto Phillips. How's things, mate?
Oh, it's I was gonna say it's Happy Sith Day, but that was 2 days ago.
Yeah, it's all it's all a bit of a mess, but yeah.
So all the attention seekers saying, "Oh, it's Star Wars Day." Of course, you know what people who are Star Wars fans are doing? Probably watching Star Wars.
Watching
They
Star
don't give
Wars.
a shit. Don't give a shit about what day it is. They don't care if it's May the 4th or whatever. They're watching Star Wars any day of the year.
Look, I was pretty keen to see that trailer for the Acolyte, that new TV series that's coming up. That looks real good, but still got to wait a month, so I'll sit tight until
Oh
then.
no! Oh no! The devastation of waiting a month.
I'm not going to get too carried away anyway. I'm still behind on The Witcher. I'm still behind on Arcane. There's so many, and yet somehow along the way of all shows for me to finish, I finished watching Fallout.
Really?
Yeah, I've watched the entire thing and loved it.
Oh,
So,
I'm still halfway through it. I've not gone back to it yet.
oh mate,
I'll get there.
the back end of it is so good, and I mean, obviously, it's pretty well documented on this show that I'm not a big Fallout fan. I'm definitely keen to kind of jump back in and try and back out again and see if it's right place, right time.
I'm not the biggest Fallout fan either, but I know this episode's not talking about Fallout.
No, we'll probably do an episode
No,
about that in the
we'll
future of it.
But the one thing that they did get right is the environment. So
Yeah,
well done, because in other times people just go, no, they don't care. Let's just put there's no such thing as wasteland. Let's just put nice luscious grass everywhere.
yeah, pretty much.
No one's gonna know, and everyone will go, "What's this shit?" and do that
Doesn't make
Patrick
sense.
Stewart meme, and do that Patrick Stewart meme, him doing this.
Shit. All right. Well, yeah, you're right. It's not the topic that we're going to be discussing today, but we are going to be discussing somehow months and months on. We're going back to the Insomniac leak. Sorry, PlayStation. We're going back to the Insomniac leak because this week, and I guess the data would have been out there, but it just wasn't really. I guess the spotlight didn't hit it. No one really noticed it as a part of everything before. But a whole bunch of data came out from specifically from the PlayStation leak. It was posted up on Reset Era. There is 585 games, PlayStation exclusives or first-party games over the course of decades, and the download data has come out for them. And so, obviously, that older games, just to I guess hit the nail on the head with that pretty early. Older games, PS1 and PS2 games, they're going to feature in this, but the way they're going to be appearing are if they've been remastered or if they've been part of like PlayStation classics that have appeared on PS4 or PS5, that sort of thing. It's the only way these games are going to appear. So they're obviously going to have really low numbers compared to the brand new releases. But there is 585 games here. We're not going to go through all of them, of course. We're just going to kind of pick through the list. It's pretty comprehensive. It was sorted based on the revenue lifetime to date that was there, but we also get to see the total number of downloads. Again, the specific thing here is that it's based on downloads, so we don't have the amount of profit that was made from physical sales to go on top of that. But you can kind of maybe extrapolate a little bit. Like we know Spider-Man, for example, sold, the original Spider-Man's like 20, 25 million copies. So this data that kind of ended in June 2023, we looked at Spider-Man, there's 8.3 million downloads. We're talking about another, maybe, on average, I can't remember the exact most recent sales figure for Spider-Man, but you're probably talking about another 17 million copies maybe sold on top of it there, give or take, and they'll all be physical. So it only tells us so much, but it kind of can maybe some of the things. Yeah, there's some different things we can glean into different franchises. Matto, what were some of the things that kind of caught your eye as you picked through the data in the first place? Was there anything that really stuck out to you?
I think the biggest one, it's not, or two actually. I think the biggest one both of us saw, and it's always been this head scratch of why is there no sequel, this, that, because it got a 7 out of 10, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry about what IGN or whatever their name is. IGN? ING is the bank. IGN. That's how little care I have for them, the whole 7 out of 10 system. Was Days Gone, because you would think all the bad reviews, this, that, whatever, it wouldn't have sold as well or made as much money as it did. And maybe in PlayStation's eyes, it's not. I don't know. I don't know what their standards are. It's not like Square Enix where it's either Final Fantasy. I can't remember. We had this like goal of if it's not Final Fantasy levels, then it's not good enough. I can't.
Well, and
remember
even then, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is under-delivered so far sales-wise, apparently. So
oh,
go
well,
figure.
Well, maybe you should have made one game instead of three.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No.
no more Final Fantasy. Yeah, well, you can scrap that.
We're not going to get a part 3. That's it. It's done.
No, 9 remakes not happening. Sorry. The so-called best one.
That would kill me. That would kill me, considering this thing has been leaked into oblivion so far. But
or Rockstar they go the Rockstar way, just do AI and just completely stuff it up, completely. But they wouldn't do that. They're not that silly.
You never know. You never know. There's dumb people doing dumb shit out there.
Yeah, well.
But you're right. Days Gone is definitely one of the more interesting ones in the list because, according to all the figures here, and keep in mind any money we're talking about here is in US dollars, but Days Gone's done $100 million of revenue in that particular case, off the back of close enough to, I'll round it off, 2.8 million digital versions. And again, that's not including physical stuff, where it's kind of launched, in a similar sort of time. When was Days Gone? Yeah, April 2019 versus September 2018 for Spider-Man. So the physical buying community, not much has changed in those 6 months or so between those two launches. But yeah, $100 million worth of revenue for that game is crazy. It has the game placed 12th in the overall list all time for PlayStation. And based on digital. Sorry, yeah, and above Uncharted 4.
Which is even more interesting because they made another game after that.
Yeah.
I don't know where that is on the list.
Well, Lost Legacy is 30th on the list. And look, I do think a bit of that is like it was that kind of window between 2016, 17 when Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy were kind of launching, and 2019, 20 when Days Gone and those sorts of games were coming out. Like absolutely, there was more people that were starting to digitally download games. Like that was becoming their go-to as internet speeds improved, as the capacity of the hard drives and now SSDs on our consoles improved. People were more likely to go digital. Like I personally, despite still having gigantic physical collections, and I've gone and been hitting up Facebook Marketplace and collecting some old physical stuff in the last few days even, I'm drifting more and more digital, and a part of that is the perk of also receiving codes for review sometimes. But that's kind of steered me a little bit towards going more physical. But yeah, more digital, I should say. But yeah, there was definitely a bit of a change in the dynamic a little bit at that point, and I think we're seeing now a lot of commentary around. I think it's like 2/3 of game sales these days are digital, with only 1/3 being physical. And I'm sure a big chunk of that is at Nintendo as well, specifically, because the Nintendo fan base do still gravitate a bit more towards physical, just even based on what the Switch can do, really.
Oh, they need to lick their cartridges somehow. You can't lick a digital
well, that's
a digital game.
I forgot about the cartridge licking. Yeah, that's a thing.
Someone figured out. I don't know how that even started. Just I said, "Oh, you don't lick your cartridge. It's disgusting." I thought, who the hell licks a cartridge to start off with?
Yeah.
Unless you're really drunk. If that's the case, fair enough. I can understand. But if you
or if it was 2017 when the thing first came out, I think everyone probably licked a cartridge once just to be like, what are they talking about? And then got the surprise. That shouldn't really have been a surprise.
Blow a cartridge, go ahead. Don't lick it. It's just weird.
Do you think there's any chance that we get this Days Gone sequel then, given these numbers? And now that it's out there and people know, like they can't even say, "Oh yeah," but you guys in the community might love it, but honestly, the numbers weren't that great. Now we know the numbers are great.
Yes, you can even say, "Where was the?" Just get in. Last of Us Part 2.
Last of Us Part 2 is third on the list, so it's definitely it's a long way behind The Last of Us Part 2, but The Last of Us is a different beast, really. So I'm not too phased by that. But it's right up there with the Uncharted. It's right up there with The Last of Us Remastered. It's right up there with Gran Turismo Sport, and it's ahead of Death Stranding, which that's getting a sequel. Now Kojima is a different sort of beast, I guess, in terms of how teams want to work with him. But it's well ahead of that. It's well ahead of Ratchet and Clank, and the Insomniac leak also taught us that we're getting another one of those in 2029. So there's heaps of different games that it's ahead of, and yet it's the one that's not receiving a sequel. So it doesn't make a
Even
lot of sense.
makes no sense. Even look at Returnal. It's
Yeah,
probably going to get a sequel.
miles ahead of Returnal.
Miles ahead, and there's probably get a sequel as well. So you do have to scratch your head. Like, if you see any game that's getting a sequel that's not Days Gone, you can just go, what the hell? Because it makes no sense.
And the reality is we know that the team pitched a sequel, so it's not like they didn't want to go near it. It's not like, say, Insomniac after they finished with, sorry, not Insomniac, Sucker Punch after they finished with Infamous Second Son and First Light, they've gone, okay, we're done, we want to go do something else now. Because I'm sure PlayStation would have happily said, yep, keep giving us more Infamous. Infamous Second Son was, and again, this was right at the earliest days of the PS4, where majority of purchases were still physical. Absolutely, it would have been probably like a 90-10 split, I'd imagine. And yet it's still 27th on the list, Infamous Second Son. So, and has done, I'm scanning across here, close enough to 2 million or 1.8 million digital downloads, let alone those that have received it free through PlayStation Plus stuff, who bought the game physically, again, which is probably 90% physical. The game's probably sold 10 million copies. It's, they don't have much of an argument. It's a weird one. And now the team is working on some sort of live service, apparently. So we'll see what that amounts to.
Just when I hear the word live service, it just
traumatizes you, doesn't it?
I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Or if they, it's a single player, but you need the internet to play. Like, that's a stupid idea, silly idea. So they just play normal game, See, Days Gone, it's fine. And also MLB The Show, I'm surprised of how much.
Oh my god, yeah, right.
Because I'm scratching my head thinking it's only, usually back in the day, it was only on a PlayStation. It's on Games Pass, Switch now, but I wouldn't have thought, being a baseball game,
it's one market that really cares about it. Obviously there are baseball fans elsewhere, but I guess Japan doesn't mind, but obviously it's America's pastime, quote unquote.
American thing, yeah, but I think for the rest of the world, it's non-existent. You just scratch your head and go, okay.
But actually, if you look at the download figures for MLB 21, it's like 1.1 million copies in America, and again, digital, versus 42,000 copies basically in all of Europe, Australia, Oceania, that sort of thing, and then Japan, 32,000. Which for Japan, that's pretty solid, really, considering the population difference. And the fact that it's not their kind of primary sport, yeah.
I thought it was. I don't know.
I think it's growing. I think it's getting pretty big, but I think it still gets dwarfed by things like soccer and all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, the MLB one, I'm with you though. That was an interesting one. It's good to see, and I can see why the MLB themselves said no, you're doing right here on PlayStation. We want this to go elsewhere, and so now we see it on Switch, we see it on Xbox. It makes sense when you kind of see the data and how well it was doing here. They go, well, what about if we got that, but on other platforms as well? I wonder if it's got. What was the first year that we got an MLB on Xbox? Was MLB 22?
I feel like it was about 2 or 3 years ago. Although it wasn't that long ago. I would say going by 22.
MLB 21 is on Xbox. That might be the first. That might be the first one.
Been that long? 3 years. Yeah, that makes sense.
MLB 20? Did MLB 20?
I don't think.
No. So 21 was the first. So, yeah, since then, 22 and 23 have all been north of that. It's an interesting one, yeah. Another thing that really kind of, I guess, caught my interest, and, Spider-Man sits comfortably at the top in most different ways, but we're seeing an impact here of the price rises for games. And so the one that kind of catches my eye, and we discussed it before the show, the one that kind of catches my eye is God of War Ragnarok in number 2 there, where it's the 8th most downloaded game of the list. So it's actually a few spots down there, but it's nearly, and it's sold 4 million, digitally sold 4 million fewer copies as of the time this list was put together. And yet, in terms of the finances, it's pretty hot on the hammer of the original Spider-Man. It's that extra $10 in terms of US dollars that's making a big difference in terms of how profitable these games are. It shows why the price jump was made. and how, I mean, we hear about these budgets, and if we just focus on what we hear about a PlayStation, I can't remember. I think in the leak it did talk about like the cost of some of the Horizon games.
Yes.
I can't remember. Yeah, 200 million or so. And you look at now Horizon Forbidden West as of the time, and of course it was a very short window at that point because it was February 22, so it only had 1 year on the market by the time this data was collected. It's only done about a third of the figures of Horizon Zero Dawn, and yet has only done $10 million less. By now it is already digitally undoubtedly overtaken Horizon Zero Dawn. That number will now kind of come to a bit of a halt because PlayStation's gone and put it in the PlayStation Plus extra tier. They were kind of trialing things out and kind of learnt that it wasn't great for the game at that point, but it's done what it needs to do. And in terms of the income of the team, like they've made 150 million plus from digital alone. That's almost the game paid off just through the digital sales alone, let alone all the physical stuff, let alone the people like myself who buy two elephants. And it shows that price rise works, and God of War is obviously the greatest example for them. Last of Us Part 2, I can't remember if prices had gone up at that point, but it's done very, very well as well. Maybe not.
I think it's just before prices went up.
Miles Morales is right up there. Miles was a weird one because that was a cheaper game, but and it's done 3 million copies less than the original Spider-Man digitally. But quick maths, like that gap is between Spider-Man and Miles Morales is way closer than what it should be considering the difference in sales. So I guess, didn't they do... Yeah, they did like an Ultimate Edition that had the remaster of the original in it, so that might have a bit of an impact. There's lots of interesting ones in there. Is there anything else that kind of caught your eye?
Not really. I think you can look down the list as you go, anything, and it's just...
You touched on Returnal before.
Returnal, yes, that's...
500,000 copies digitally, which is not a great number, but it's enough to get it in the 31st spot on the list. And 32 million probably makes them all their money back, to be fair, for a team like them.
And then you sort of just slowly go down through the list. There's just old games.
Look at Dreams. Look at Dreams. 631,000. Any wonder they've kind of pulled the pin on that.
And then and even we said The Order, a game that didn't review well because of certain things, and its revenue was, let me just check, nearly 20 million.
Is that all?
That all from 1.4 million downloads.
Yeah, right.
If I'm reading that correctly.
No, you're probably right. Where is it on the list? Sorry, what number is it on the list?
It's number 44.
44
on the list.
44. In terms of revenue, because revenue on the list for me is Dreams.
Are we looking at the right thing?
We might be. We might be looking at different things. The revenue lifetime to date rank is the one that I've been looking at. But we talk about the Order 1886, and I mentioned before that I've been doing a bit of Facebook Marketplace shopping. And
what have you got?
This never made its way out into Australian markets. I believe it was kind of a US exclusive, and yet someone in Sunbury had it. I managed to get myself, and it's going to work perfectly here. Managed to get for like $20. Managed to get myself the collector's edition of the Order 1886. So up on the shelf.
Wow.
I was stoked. Absolutely stoked to be able to get
$20.
Oh, look.
I feel like that person's going to regret it later on. I feel like it's just an absolute. You've just stole it off him.
This one is far less This one's far less impressive. In fact, most people might even laugh at it. Do you remember on the PS3, PlayStation introduced this gimmick called Wonderbook?
I may remember it. If you showed me it, I probably will laugh. Oh, no, I do not.
It was kind of something I never messed around with because I thought it was a bit of a gimmick. It was a little bit dumb, and at the time I was a little bit to all things Harry Potter. But it was kind of they worked with J.K. Rowling and whatnot to kind of put together a little magic game using the camera the PlayStation Eye, whatever. I spent $10, and I thought I was just going, oh, that's right, I'll get the game in the book, no worries, that's fine. Turns out though,
come with
PlayStation Move controller.
Oh, the ice creams are back.
And the camera.
Still in plastic.
$10. Someone was offloading it for. I'm like, well, I can't pass that up.
Still in plastic.
And it's the game is still in its shrink wrap too.
They're clearly stolen from someone's house.
right off the back of a truck.
Fresh off the truck.
Just like Damo getting his Xbox, right?
Yes, in a van. Yes, that one.
So yeah, I was pretty stoked to get my hands on it. Like, there's some cool stuff for physical people if you want to go hunting these days. But I mean, the Order one, I am beyond delighted with that because I absolutely love the Order. It's criminal that it's so far down the list, where it is 44th or whatever.
Depending on
what there we go. Yeah, sorry. Yeah, the revenue to date. Yeah, sorry, 42. I was super close. Yeah, missed it. But yeah, nearly $20 million of profit off the back of 1.3 million, which revenue I should say. Probably not that bad, but it's you can kind of see why. Well, again, I guess the digital sales weren't what they were back in 2015 versus what they are now. And a good example of that is number 36 on that list, which is The Last of Us. It's done less than $1 million digitally.
Is that the PS3 one?
The PS3 one, yeah, which though ultimately has sold like 15 million copies at least. But it's only 916,353 copies, so the $27 million of profit. So it kind of shows, I guess, the change in the market over the course of just a few years in terms of this physical digital environment, and how things change rapidly between PS3 into PS4, but then early PS4 to late PS4 and beyond. It's the digital adoption rate is exploded. So it's kind of interesting to see. And as you kind of creep a little bit further in this, and still within the top 100, you start to see some of these like classics that were popping up, whether you could buy them on the Vita, whether you could buy them on the PSP, whether you could buy them on the PS3, 4, whatever the case happens to be. So you touched on at one point, like Crash Bandicoot 2's in there at number 99 on the list. Crash Bandicoot 3 at 80, Gran Turismo for the PSP is there at 79. Like, these games start to crop up, and they're doing many hundreds of thousands, in some case millions of copies, but their price wasn't necessarily high. If they were PSP, some absolutely kind of pirated into oblivion, and so we didn't necessarily see huge sales as a result. But like, there are interesting games. Uncharted Legacy of Thieves, which is a PS5. What's that? Yeah, PS5 remaster. That's the PS5 remaster, I think.
I'd say so. Cause same
that's 4. Yeah, that's 4 and 5, and yeah, that's at 83 on the list. It's only done 284,000 copies digitally, which feels very odd for Uncharted, and basically no one in Europe or Japan cared about it in the slightest.
I mean, it got below Crash Bandicoot 3, which came out in 2007.
Yeah. So there's that's a surprisingly low one, but I guess it was not a huge amount of effort needed to go into it, and a lot of people would have gotten actually that might be it. A lot of people would have gotten their free upgrades rather than like a lot of it would have been like the $10 upgrade to get, I don't think it was free, but yeah, like a $10, $20 upgrade or whatever it is, which would mean obviously that's a pretty low number. But it's disappointing to see PlayStation All Stars Battle Royale so low down the list, but we're not going to get another one of those ever again. Was there anything else as we kind of skimmed through the list? I can see Horizon Call of the Mountain at 115th on the list and 71,000 downloads so far, and that is a PS5 game. That is a PSVR 2 game. That there's a few different things around that don't bode well for specifically the PSVR 2. I think more than anything else.
Well, I'm kind of disappointed that My Name Is Mayo didn't make the list.
Not PlayStation exclusive. That's not made by PlayStation, so they don't have their data. That's what's killed that one. But otherwise, be right up near the top.
That would have been number one for sure.
As you start to move through it, you start to see how different bundles popped up. So like I get to 146 and I see like Infamous Second Son and First Light, and there was clearly a bundle in Europe of those two games together that didn't come to America or Japan because they've made $0 in both of those regions, but then it's made $2.5 million in Europe. So you start to see these little bundles popping up. There's a game called Orishika brackets Over My Dead Body on the PSP that didn't come out in America or Europe, but it's sold in Japan. Legend of the Dragoon, which was a PS1 game that didn't hit the PlayStation network in Europe either. Like there's little things you start to see some strange things pop up, and you wonder, well, why didn't PlayStation ever put that out? So anyway, any other thoughts on the whole situation?
Yeah, I'm on the wagon of make a Days Gone sequel, please.
Yeah, let's prioritize that one and the order. All right, we'll wrap things up then. If you enjoyed this episode of Patch, please be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Check out all the awesome stuff that's there. There's heaps of shorts, heaps of Player 2 plays, heaps of cool stuff that you can go check out. More episodes of Patch and more. Visit the website player2.net.au for reviews, previews, opinion pieces, news, links to the podcast series, and more. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/player2au, kicking a few bucks, lower tiers, early access, higher tiers, monthly episode exclusives. And finally, there's Twitter, Matto.
Matto_Phil.
Paul James Games for myself. The website is player2au. Thanks a lot for watching. PlayStation, don't hate us too much for talking about these numbers. Just lock everything down a little bit tighter going forward.
I will stop talking about PlayStation if you give me a Helldivers flag. Then I'll never talk about anything bad about PlayStation ever again.
Yeah, fair. Thanks a lot for watching, everyone. We'll see you later.
Oh no, I was going to say something else. I can't remember what I was going to say.